All right. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thanks, man.
I left you a Valentine's Day card.
You did.
On your desk. It is from the Chiefs, and it has Tyreek Hill on it. And I thought, that's perfect.
Well, as you know, being in a long-term relationship yourself, and me being married, you have to put up with the Hills to get the Mahomes, which is the other side of the card.
This is fair.
Now, I don't know if you have to put up with the Hills. That's I think a little bit aggressive.
I just don't know if that. Yeah, that's the case.
There are Kareem Hunts in your life that you discard. There are the Tyreek Hills that you rehabilitate, and there's the real gift, which is the Pat Mahomes.
Well, you got to my next one, which is also Happy Valentine's Day from the Cleveland Browns, who signed Kareem Hunt just in time to get him to Cleveland for this special day. Mm-hmm. That couldn't make more sense from a football perspective. Can you explain this at all?
No.
Okay, neither can I. I think it's ridiculous. I know that it's like here's the funny thing. So it's a super small contract, right? It's like 1 year, $645K. You see that and you're like, could do something with 645. I could do that.
The only reason
potentially not assault someone for 645K.
The drive of GMs and coaches to reacquire players they once fell in love with is so strong.
On Valentine's Day, that comes back around. The amazing thing is that you would sign a player who plays a position that absolutely does not matter. You already have two running backs on your team who are as good, if not better, than he is. And there is a video of this man kicking a woman. Kicking a woman while she's down. I'm now all out on the Cleveland Browns. I love Baker Mayfield.
We were.
This is horrifically bad.
We were mocked and ridiculed for saying that Kareem Hunt was worth like a quarter of a win, generously over like the Spencer Wares and the Damian Williams of the world. And of course, like that came to fruition. Damian Williams was brilliant. Basically down the stretch and has gotten himself, I think, a reasonable running back contract, which is like 2 years, $8 million.
Right. This is
the Chiefs show how smart they are in terms of like who they discarded and who they kept. To be honest with you, from a football perspective, it sounds crude, but it's true.
Right. Also, Happy Valentine's Day from Cowboys fanboy Skip Bayless, who tweeted a picture of himself and claimed that he was 5% body fat the entirety of the NFL season. There is video evidence of him. You can go on YouTube and check it out. He's like does a topless hot tub thing with Kevin Hart, which I don't know how you haven't seen it if you haven't. But there's like a negative 5 million% chance that he's under 5% body fat. The guy's like 67, which is impressive that he's not fat overall. But like it's ridiculous. So here's my question. Okay. My question is this. More delusional. Skip Bayless being 5% body fat or the Dallas Cowboys thinking Dak Prescott is the future.
The thing you and Neil were talking about this in the office today, and the entire time I'm just like, yeah, he's just dealing with, he lives in a different universe, so his denominators aren't one. This is 5% of 50.
I think what he's trying to say,
he might be 10% body fat, but he just changes the denominator.
Yeah, you'd be better off saying like 99th percentile for my age or something. Yeah, whatever. All right, that was Valentine's Day. Hope you have a good one. By the way, Valentine's Day, the most overrated, like, fake holiday?
No.
Does your wife enjoy Valentine's Day? Is she excited about it?
I mean, it's different when you have kids and stuff because then you got to make all the cards for all the other kids in the class. Remember that? Yeah.
That's a thing?
Wow. Well, that's right. You were homeschooled, so but in like the elementary school, you have to like make like 30 cards and go like, "Hey Johnny, I hate you 364 days of the year, but today I'm going to get you a Valentine."
Wow.
And those little like candies that say
was
like.
Was that the case in your day going to school? Yeah, I didn't. I was homeschooled until high school, and in high school you didn't do that.
No, you didn't.
So,
I think personally Father's Day overrated. All I want is a nap. That's it.
Yeah, that's fair. Valentine's Day is pretty overrated, which I've always thought my girlfriend agreed with until I brought it up this year for some reason. Yeah. Not going to visit tonight, apparently, is a big issue. I'm flying to D.C. tomorrow. Who cares? It's whatever. All right. Next up, elite quarterback discussions. Let's start with Joe Flacco. traded for a 4th-round pick. He goes to the Denver Broncos. Is your favorite thing about this people trying to galaxy brain their way into John Elway and the Broncos being next-level geniuses?
I mean, I don't actually. I think only the silly people are saying that, like the Mike Francescas of the world, are like, we gotta pay attention to this. John Elway's doing something. I'm like, we have been paying attention for 10 years, and he's gotten like one thing right the entire time, and it was difficult to get wrong.
I mean, Mike Francesca, that is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
The thing that triggered a lot of people was this idea. So I tweeted out basically like last season was a 5-quarterback draft. The Broncos held the 5th pick, and in reality, they held the 4th pick because Cleveland wasn't going to take 2. Mm-hmm. And they ended up signing Case Keenum prior to the whole draft process. They didn't trade back. They got an edge player who was a decent player by his own right, but ultimately, like, they just completely mismanaged the situation. And of course, like, you sign a quarterback and they're like, hey, don't worry about Keenum. It's just a 2-year deal. And the guy literally doesn't make it through the 2nd year in the deal. It's just... Yeah, and I think the same thing like with Flacco, like, teams will sign, like the team signed Matt Schaub to play ahead of Derek Carr that first year. The team signed, Matt Flynn to play ahead, and it's like these guys don't even make it to like the bridge. Tyrod Taylor made it to 2.5 games. And it's just impressive. Like this whole situation is really funny, and it does show like what people like fundamentally don't necessarily understand about the value of quarterbacks and what generates winning in the NFL, and then that's having an elite quarterback on a rookie deal or an elite quarterback on an expensive deal. And the only way to get to that, except for 1% of cases, is to draft a guy.
This is correct. The best thing that I've seen so far are fans of the Broncos and John Elway that are rationalizing not trading down last year. And people not understanding that keeping your pick and not trading down can be a bad move is sort of frustrating. Like, Bradley Chubb is fine, whatever, but if you're not going to take a quarterback, your team sucks. You have to trade down because the value is so much greater there.
And it doesn't matter what you think of Josh Allen. It doesn't matter what Denver thinks of Josh Allen. It matters what Buffalo thought of Josh Allen and what they were willing to give up for him.
Well,
that was the other point too.
Like, it also doesn't matter what you think of Bradley Chubb, because this whole idea, we talk about it a lot, the idea that you are the one that's figured it out. Look, many GMs have come before me. They've swung and they've missed, but I get it. Hubris in drafting, in the NFL draft in particular, is absolutely hilarious. No one knows anything. It's a complete crapshoot. You're an idiot if you have such a high level of hubris that you can't trade down because you think you've picked the right guy. There is a huge amount of volatility no matter how confident you are, and you need to hold as many lotto tickets as possible. So that's hilarious. The whole Flacco thing in general is a unifying storyline.
Except for a few people.
Even the run game truthers can say this is a stupid move. I mean, Joe Flacco is at best a mid to low 20s quarterback. He was 23rd from a clean pocket in terms of PFF grade last year. And here's the thing that would worry me. So Case Keenum was bad last year, but he dealt with a Broncos offensive line that was not great. Watching Garrett Bowles pass protect on the left side is perhaps one of the most gruesome things you can possibly watch. And I like Garrett Bowles, but it was really horrific. Mm-hmm. Keenum had a quicker time to throw than Joe Flacco. They were both in the low 2.5s, which is below average. But Keenum faced pressure 10% more often than Joe Flacco. So that is not something that Joe Flacco deals well with. And so I would not expect him to be better than he was last year, given that he will, in all likelihood, face less advantageous situations.
People often overlook Keenum's strengths because of his weaknesses. We saw that with Minnesota. Keenum, for all of his faults, was very good at avoiding pressure. And when Cousins came into the fold for Minnesota, Cousins is better in a lot of instances, but he was worse at the thing that Keenum covered up the best. And I think that Flacco is similar in this case.
The deep accuracy, the big arm is it's an unbelievable storyline, given there's just no evidence.
It's like running backs.
No evidence of it being true.
Beautiful to throw a deep ball.
He was 10% below average on accuracy, throwing 20-plus yards downfield, and that's using the exact ball location. That's not good. I don't know. He had decent receivers last year too, so I know he didn't play a ton. He looked decent in the Steelers game. He looked decent in the Bengals game actually, like later in the game. But whatever. The point is, if you're a Broncos fan and this changes what you do in the draft, you're an idiot. Which brings me to the thing I saw on the dark web that I thought was really funny. I think it was Bovada, and I might be getting this wrong, actually lowered the Broncos Super Bowl odds after this trade from 100.
Perfectly rational.
Okay. I get where you're coming from. It's perfectly rational, but I also don't agree with it. I don't think they actually have worse odds now than they did with Case Keenum, unless, so there are two explanations for this. The first is this sports book just wants to go viral, and that's an easy way to do it. Yeah. And if so, good for them. That's smart. The second is the only way that I think you can rationalize this is you say, okay, now the chances that John Elway and the Broncos don't pick a quarterback
that's it.
Or the chance that they pick one has decreased, and so their odds of actually becoming a reasonably decent team have decreased. That's the only way it makes sense.
Take Baltimore, for example. Last season, like when Lamar Jackson came in, it added a novelty that increased their Super Bowl odds. It's the same idea.
We talked about this. So you're in agreement with me.
Yeah, I think that's the 100% the reason is that they're a known average commodity. There's no fat tail anymore.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
From Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt. Look, still investigating the Kareem Hunt thing. Need a couple more. We need some conclusive evidence. Need to see the all-22 before I can really tell whether the kick was bad or not.
Folks.
I need to see different angles. We have pylon cam. Come on. Can't see all the players on the field. Don't know what the coverage looked like.
You had a little Romo there. Come on.
Oh, Jim, I don't know.
Speaking of Valentine's Day.
Tony Romo has got to start doing golf with Jim Nantz. They got to pick a tournament and let him do it because it'd be pretty great. Nick Faldo. Don't get me started. All right. Next up, we've got the AAF. On a scale of 1 to 10, your enjoyment from the AAF in week 1 was what?
4.
Ooh.
So 4 higher than you, but no, I mean, and I'm a pretty easy guy to please. It was tough to watch in terms of
Valentine's Day.
It was a tough thing to watch in terms of. So one of the things we talked about the other day was when quarterback play is bad, you notice the drops a lot more because there's so many fewer accurate passes. So like when Hack throws one into the stands, throws another one to the head coach, and then he finally hits the tight end down the seam with a perfect pass, and the guy clanks it off his face mask. You notice it because the 3 and outs happened. 16% of passes in the first week were dropped in the AF versus like 6 in the NFL, and so you just saw it. And then what was interesting was all the over-unders prior to the games. You could reason it out, right? 2-point conversions, faster play clock, no kickoffs, right? So you're going to have better field position on average. All the over-unders were above 50, and now they're all relatively near like the 42, 45 range. And that was because all the games except for the last one went under by a mile. So I thought that was interesting. We've done a little bit of ELO-fication of the AAF, but we'll wait a week or two before we like sort of release those, I guess.
Gotta wait?
Well,
look, the more we can trim down the viewers to like the true diehards. I'm very interested to see the TV ratings this second week because they were pretty decent given everyone wanting to see football and Hackenberg and all this stuff. And now that it's like, okay, Hackenberg still sucks. Mike Martz clearly did not prepare for the 21st century.
His time in San Francisco, unlike 99% of people, made him less progressive.
I mean, that was incredible. The thing that doesn't make sense to me about the AAF, and maybe this will change in week 2, and if so, it could be more exciting, is, okay, you're playing in the AAF for one reason and one reason only. You suck. You're coaching in the AAF for one reason and one reason only. You sucked. Well, so if your goal is to make it back to the place that you want to be, which is the NFL, I might sit down and think to myself, how do people currently get jobs in the NFL? Well, you either know Sean McVay or you've actually done something different, ingenuitive, maybe something college-esque, Cliff Kingsbury-esque. Do something different. Also, who gets noticed? People that make quote-unquote bold calls. Doug Peterson in the Super Bowl. So why teams are showing up and punting on 4th and 1, running the ball 700 times, not trying new things, doing completely different radical stuff, blows my mind, especially given you have to know the players that you have suck more than usual.
Well, that to me, that's the thing, is that I think everything. So in the NFL, quarterback is king. When you throw that out of there, other things are going to be marginally more, important. And I think catching the football, we saw that. Coaching, I think one of the big failures of the league was retreading guys like Mike Singletary and Mike Martz and Dennis Eric. Like literally every guy that's ever coached for the 49ers is in the AAF. And like that's a tough one. I agree with you on ratings. So the weird thing about this week is none of the games are on CBS. All the games are either on NFL Network or CBS Sports Network. So it's going to be tough, I think, for them to generate the type of ratings that they got last week with none of the games on network TV.
That's going to be rough. What else is going on this weekend? So there's like the NBA All-Star Game.
Well, there's that too. That's a tough one.
That'll probably be tough to beat. And Tiger is playing. So chances of me watching the AAF.
The over-unders in this week's AAF games have all gone down by multiple points since they were released on OddsShark like 2 days ago.
Here's what I will say about the AAF. You are probably better off following simply out of data curiosity, in which case you can go to Pro Football Focus and we can make it happen for you. You don't have to watch the games. You can simply get a subscription, still pretend you're watching the games by tweeting out things like, this guy sucks, look at this, right? So ProFootballFocus.com has you covered. All right. We done with the AAF?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about there?
Nope.
Thank God. All right. It's going to be tough for me. We're going to do this. We're going to make this happen. So team reviews, we are going to go pick by pick. We went with the Arizona Cardinals last week. You know what we forgot? In our
Let's talk about Murray
discussion.
at the very end. Let's talk about Murray at the very end.
Oh, you just want to push him off to the side.
Well, that's what the draft community is doing.
Fine.
Listen, you already got me jacked up about the Niners.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to not talk about the Niners. All right, so we're going to talk about the Niners. Very disappointing season. I was planning to go to Atlanta.
Where the players play.
To watch them against the Patriots. The Patriots made it there. The Niners did not. Yeah, Jimmy G. Why don't you talk about him? I can't do this.
Well, like the Cardinals, we were halfway decent at picking their games this year. I think the only one we lost was week 1 where we backed them plus 6.5 against Minnesota. George Kittle dropped that deep wheel route that probably would have covered the spread in that game. We faded them 3 other times, and they were all victorious, including Eli Manning taking the next step on Monday Night Football with Tess, Witt, and Boog. We had them projected at 8.19 wins. Their over-under was 8.5. Obviously, they went under much because of the injury to Garoppolo. Offense and defense both in the 20s. They were 19th in rushing EPA, but just 21st in passing EPA on offense, and then they ended up 23rd overall. Defense, they really struggled, I think, in a pretty predictable place for us, which is pass defense. They give up 0.17 EPA per pass play, which was what we sort of expected as their one Achilles heel last year.
Just drive the stake into my heart. This team was so frustrating to me, and it started with the draft last year, taking a 40-year-old right tackle. Inhumanely stupid. Derwin James was the obvious pick. I was losing my mind when he was available.
We were in that room over there, and I think there was an audible F word that was yelled.
Well, perhaps more than one. I wrote an article where I tried to be kind to John Lynch. It was a mistake. They should have taken Derwin James. They should have traded down. All of those things better than taking Mike McGlinchey. Their pass defense sucked. Their
2 least valuable players were secondary players, Akello Witherspoon and Adrian Colbert.
They're going to end up overpaying Mike McGlinchey to, at some point, play left tackle, which he probably won't be better at than he is at playing right tackle. So that's frustrating. The good news is that they have now 2 Georges that are elite, myself and George Kittle. George Kittle, best tight end in the NFL.
Most valuable, I believe, at 1.8 wins above replacement. DeForest Buckner.
Round up 1.9. Let's get as many wins as possible here.
DeForest Buckner, Nick Mullins, Matt Breida, Eric Armstead, Joe Staley, their most valuable players this year. Obviously, Mullins was a very good surprise. I think he'll have a long career as sort of a backup quarterback in the mold of, guys like, Nick Foles. What's the guy for the Chase Daniel, those kind of guys. So he carved out a nice niche. I think even though Shanahan and Saleh were kind of like they fell a little bit in our coaching rankings, I do think Mullins is a great feather in Shanahan's cap in terms of being able to take a difficult situation. At least, they were obviously the outcomes were not something that a Niners fan would like, but they were entertaining in all their games. They rarely were blown out, which I think is a testament to some of the talent that they have, but also their coaching. One of the things that they probably should improve on, look at their decisions. 34 fourth downs were going for it would have been the right move. They went for it 6 times. That was the 5th worst in the NFL. They gave up about 2 touchdowns worth of points on those decisions. So,
are you saying that's bad?
Pretty bad.
No, it's not. The reason that's not bad is that their goal is not to win games with Nick Mullins a quarterback. Their goal was to lose games. This is a further, to use your phrase, feather in the cap of Kyle Shanahan.
They did lose to the Cardinals twice.
The first being that Nick Mullins broke the record for yards after catch for a completion.
Well, nobody told George Kittle to fall down in any of those plays. So I don't know how strong of a pull Shanahan had.
I mean, look, he exerted his will where he could, but Nick Mullins is a pretty average quarterback, twice the rate of turnover-worthy plays compared to big-time throws. He was 15th in grade from a clean pocket, which, is decent. But I think the big key here is that he benefited greatly from players making plays after the fact. I'll pull it up. I think he got over 7 yards after catch per completion, which was above Mahomes even, which is incredible. The thing about Shanahan not going for it on 4th down a bunch, and I talked about this with a few different 49ers fans, our friend Oscar, for example, is that is the perfect place if you're a coach to make suboptimal decisions to help your team, because no one is going to pick up on it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? No one's ever going to call you out for it, and your players aren't going to call you out for it.
Because you can explain it as, I'm trusting my defense, or, I'm not trying to put you in positions to fail, all that kind of stuff. Right. Exactly. It is the perfect place to tank if you are inclined. So cap space, did you like the... No.
You're trying to move on from my Nick Mullins shade. The last thing I was going to mention is that he was not in any way above average from an accuracy standpoint. He did not go downfield very often.
Yeah.
The people screaming about Nick Mullins being as good as Jimmy Garoppolo are peasants and should go away.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, what he showed is that he can run an offense that's well constructed, which is a good thing for a backup.
All right, on to next year.
Cap space.
How do you spell that?
So what they've actually done
K-A-E-P.
They've done a pretty good job with obviously Garcon. It sounded like the news is coming out. They're going to let him go. They're really only free agents that I think they would want back are special teams guys. Robbie Gould, Brad Pinion, Raheem Mostert's a pretty good player in that realm. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Ward is a veteran player who's played for them before, but ultimately they don't have a lot in the way of guys that they can't lose. And they have about $61 million in free cap space, so they can go out and make plays for free agents. Like they could probably sign one of the top guys, the Earl Thomases of the world, the Grady Jarretts of the world, the Bryce Callahans. But one of the things that people are discussing, which I think is pretty hilarious, is this idea that they're going to go after Le'Veon Bell.
So who's discussing that?
Well, I saw it on the ESPN.
Right, Bill Barnwell was the only person I saw.
Right, but
he's just trying to trigger people.
But listen, Garoppolo can't move. He can't run with the ball in his hands per Bill Barnwell. So they have to get somebody who can, George.
This is true. I've heard the Antonio Brown rumor more than I had the Le'Veon Bell one.
Which that one actually makes sense.
Kind of, right? I mean, if you're going to invest, if you're going to overpay someone, at least let it be someone that's going to help your team win, right? They also just signed Jerick McKinnon, who has less wear and tear than Le'Veon. I would rather have Jerick McKinnon than Le'Veon Bell, given the price you're going to have to pay. Plus, Le'Veon Bell has Houston Texan written all over him.
Miami. I'd rather have Matt Breida than both of them, to be honest.
Yes, there's no reason for them to go out and get a running back. If they're going to spend money, Earl Thomas, I think, makes sense. Jason McCourty, they have to get help in the secondary. I mean, they have to. So,
what about a guy like Adam Humphries or Cole Beasley? We saw that slot position for them struggle.
And they'll be cheap.
Trent Taylor was not great last year. Having a guy, Garoppolo loved throwing to Trent Taylor during 2017.
I think Trent Taylor could be fine.
Yeah, but Adam Humphries and Cole Beasley will be undervalued in free agency. I like the Bryce Callahan thing. They've struggled in the slot recently.
Yep. They've struggled everywhere. Derwin James.
All right, so let's talk draft.
So hold on. What would you offer up for Antonio Brown?
A pick that I would get from another team pre-draft in a trade for the number 2 overall pick.
Right, which would be like what?
Like a high 2.
Oh, you would? You'd give up a high 2.
I wouldn't give up a 1, but I would give up a high 2. I mean, so what are you going to get out of, like, what are you going to get from Antonio Brown? Like, let's say, like, the same kind of idea of, you know, some of these legit receivers who are falling off a little bit, which I would assume we agree on Brown doing that, go somewhere rejuvenated for like 1 or 2 years. If you got 2 years of Antonio Brown as a 1.5 wins above replacement player, to me, that's worth a second round pick.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's worth it. I don't know, like, especially if, so our opinion is, right, that the Rams are good, but eventually that window is going to close a little bit. The Seahawks, I think, we're going to fall off. The Arizona's got a long way to go. The NFC is not necessarily as deep as it was last year. I think the Niners do have an opportunity to compete this year with Garoppolo and with their coach in place and all that kind of stuff. That, to me, Brown is a guy. I mean, can you? I don't know. I'm thinking of like what Shanahan did with like the Julio Joneses of the world, and
I don't doubt that he would be great with them, and that Shanahan would do it. He would undoubtedly do a better job than anyone did with him in Pittsburgh. My worry is that it would be, so you get this great production out of Brown for 1 or 2 years, but that's like the 1 or 2 years before you get all the young pieces together. So I think it depends if they go all out a la the Rams, right? They go get like Earl Thomas, they trade a couple. You know, if they do that, then I think it does make sense.
Yeah.
But if their plan is to continue simply rebuilding, hopefully then they would have a little bit of a longer view. Now, that being said, they drafted a guy who was 45 last year in the first round, so maybe they are in
Richard
win now
Sherman
mode.
playing corner. They have some remnants of a team with veterans who want to win now.
Right. And look, they have receiver talent. A lot of that is Kyle Shanahan talent.
And a lot of it would be enhanced substantially if they were the number 2. Marquise Goodwin would be a very good number 2 player who never faced double coverage, who would never, you know.
They have. I like Pettis and Goodwin, and both those guys would fit the sort of Taylor Gabriel role way better than Taylor Gabriel ever did.
Mohamed Sanu, similarly.
Here's the thing. Shanahan doesn't need a number 1 guy to have a top 5 offense. We've seen that. But
when he did,
when given the opportunity, Antonio Brown
Darius Gunter is still having nightmares.
Okay, so they have the number 2 pick. There's no doubt in my mind that they should trade the number 2 pick. If they don't, I think they've got to look at, you know, Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams. That just doesn't sound.
It sucks, though, right?
It sounds so much worse than trading down. And when you consider the fact that there are the Raiders there at 4, right? There are the Dolphins potentially trying to move up. The Giants could be trying to move up.
How funny would that be, by the way?
Not trading down is a suboptimal bad decision. People need to start realizing that 49ers are in a perfect situation to trade down. One of the scenarios that you put up here using our draft pick trade simulator, which is awesome, uses PFF WAR and a lot of math to basically tell you the distribution of who wins certain trades. And the option of 2 for 4 and 24 from Oakland, which, by the way, seems like less than you could actually get from them.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you have an opportunity to pick up a 24th pick, the difference between 2 and 4 is 0. It's 0. You get an extra player. You can't cover anybody. They should do that.
And what would be the best? So I put down DeAndre Baker, cornerback from Georgia, Greedy Williams, quarterback from LSU. Yep. I think they'd be extremely happy with those guys. Getting those guys at 4 is such a better play than just like reaching for them at 2. And you get, as you said, that extra player there to enhance whatever you want to do. The safety position, the linebacker position. They lost Reuben Foster, right? That's a first-round pick. You're not getting back.
Happy Valentine's Day.
I like that, and so the Raiders are obviously a choice. I think
haven't seen the video yet. Can't judge. Welcome to DC.
The Dolphins are another sort of low-key. Dolphins carry the 13th pick. There's some rumors that they're saying they're going to do what the Niners did in 2017, which is play a guy like Brian Hoyer all year. Yep. Kind of sit on the year, wait for something to happen. But if they were inclined to go up and get Murray, they would also be something. There was I think a combination of something like this year's 13th overall pick, next year's 1, a 3, and a 2 next year would be basically an even trade. So if you're the Niners, you're thinking about stockpiling players. That would be a place to go.
Well, here's the thing. One of the cool pieces of the trade simulator that we have is you can say whether a team picks a quarterback with that pick. And that drastically changes the distribution because quarterbacks have such a higher ceiling. Also, they have
higher variance too.
Higher variance. But that means that sort of both teams can theoretically win a trade. And for the Raiders, right, things are a little bit more in their favor given they would take a quarterback at 2. But the reverse is true for the Niners. They would get less out of that pick by not taking a quarterback. They don't need a quarterback, so you should trade down. Look, they could get probably, if they play their cards right, the 4, the 24, and a first next year even. If the Niners,
the discount rate on first round picks in the marketplace is substantially higher than what it should be. So in theory, you could. The only difficult thing there is if Gruden is as smart as we don't think he's an idiot, right? If he's as smart as he could be, he might know that and not surrender that secondary 1. Yes. In which case, you'd have to go to the Dolphins to do so.
Here's the other thing: you have to gauge how much do you like that one quarterback, right? So if first off, okay, so let's talk about this. The Cardinals should take Kyler Murray.
100%.
He's declared they should take Kyler Murray. If they don't, all of a sudden Kyler Murray becomes available. That opens up the value for that pick. So you can even wait until sort of the Cardinals show their hand.
Well, and that's what's different about this year, because I think if there were 2 quarterbacks available in this draft that people wanted, the Niners are in the same position as the Colts, right, where they can get this trade and stockpile early, March. But I think, as you do, this trade's probably going to have to wait until the day of the draft because of where Murray falls. I'm with you. I think Murray should be the number 1 overall pick.
By the way, we said this 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, we had it on a video. Yeah, I mean, our stance, I think, is that Murray is good enough to be the number 1 pick, but he's not good enough to turn down the farm for. Whereas we thought Mayfield probably good enough to turn down the farm for.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Kyler Murray is the best dual threat. And what I mean by that is the best passer-runner combo. He's good at both things better than we've ever seen anyone be before. And I wrote down a couple of my favorite takes on why Kyler Murray can't play in the NFL. Actually, this one is that he can. Being short doesn't predict a lack of success. It doesn't. Look at all the short quarterbacks that have had success, like Russell Wilson and Drew Brees. You're an idiot for trying to use that as a reason for him to be successful.
There's a lot of survival bias in this data, too.
A lot. The other one is taller players have more passes batted down. Okay, great. Passes are batted at like a 3%, 2% rate. It's ridiculous. Who cares? He will get beat up because of his size is another one of my favorites. The guy's like 200 pounds. Kirk Cousins plays quarterback in the NFL, and you're complaining about Kyler Murray getting beat up? Give me a break, man. That's pathetic. There are so many NFL players that get hit harder than quarterbacks. In fact, every single NFL player, punters get hit harder than quarterbacks.
Punt returner is the size of Kyler Murray on a skinny day, and they get hit more than...
Complaining about a guy getting beat up in a league who is doing everything to protect that position is an absolutely hilarious take.
The league has never been more conducive to what Kyler Murray offers.
Exactly. So this is the other thing.
Time is now if it's going to be at any other time.
So what we went and did is adjusted. We track ball location accuracy for all college quarterbacks, and there's a big difference in scheme, what quarterbacks face, pressure, clean, how far they throw the ball, where they throw it, how good of a defense they face, how good their offense is. So adjusting for all those things is tricky. You need to use some mathematical modeling to do so. And basically, we took all of the guys from 2016 through this year's draft class, adjusted for all of those things that I mentioned, including wide receiver separation, type of route, whether he's in or out of the pocket, play action, pressure, all the stuff, whether he's hit. Baker Mayfield is at the top of everything. He's at the top of accuracy above what you'd expect. He's at the top of avoiding uncatchable passes more than you'd expect. Whether you filter by clean pocket, whether you look in the pocket, whether you look down the field, it does not matter. Baker Mayfield, head and shoulders above everyone else. But guess who's in number 2 just about every way you slice it? Kyler Murray.
I'm more focusing on Gardner Minshew because his stats are hilarious. But yeah, that's it.
But like everyone else has some sort of weakness here or there. Kyler Murray, the only place where he really, he's below Baker Mayfield, and it really shows up when you look at things from the pocket downfield. His uncatchable percentage about 8% higher. It's obviously not great, but he's still in second. Right? He is head and shoulders above all of the other guys that we've seen come out, and he did it in college at a big school where, guess what? All these other guys played as well. So if you're going to complain about this guy's size from a production standpoint, you are just either blind, dumb. I don't know what's wrong with you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
People are really stupid. I don't understand how you can possibly use some of these harebrained excuses for why you won't be successful.
But that's stupid. That's been football. We just saw the running backs don't matter discussion. It's like people just make stuff up because they've watched a second or two of football, and
well, here's the thing. Here's what is crazy to me is say he takes a step back as a passer in the NFL because of his height. Just say that. Okay. So say he's, closer to say Josh Rosen, right?
We would take Josh Rosen.
But here's the thing. Kyler Murray is an elite runner. And guess what provides value from a running perspective in the NFL?
Being a quarterback.
Running with the quarterback. He averaged a ridiculous 7 yards per designed run attempt at Oklahoma. The guy is an athletic freak. Plus, he can avoid pressure. That is an issue for the Cardinals, for example. Yeah. So these are all things that when we use our grades and all the different things that are predictive from college to the pros, he shows out very, very well.
EPA per pass play is far better than what you would expect from a guy with his completion, yards per attempt, all that kind of stuff. The thing that I think people need to realize here is the stuff that Murray offers raises his floor.
Yes.
Running, and our friend Kevin Cole said, I think said this first, but he said running being a running quarterback, people think it adds volatility, but what it does is it increases your floor because there's going to be a play. Alex Smith was that way.
Trubisky.
Alex Smith, right? Alex Smith could pick up a first down here or there, and again, we saw this in the AF last week. The quarterbacks can't move, and if they're not accurate, they're having a bad day. It's over.
I'll go as far as to say this. I would take Baker Mayfield over Kyler Murray for his career. But in year 1, I think Kyler Murray offers you the better chance to win football games.
RG3.
But unlike RG3, he's not a complete moron. But he probably knows how to slide, given that he played baseball. But this is ridiculous. We have to close this out. But we are in lockstep here. We are taking Kyler Murray first. If you are not taking a quarterback and you are not trading down, you are hurting your team's future.
We don't, and there's a price, I think. Like if you're the Cardinals, you have to rebuild. And so if a team offers you an outrageous amount, but if they don't, Murray's the pick.
He's the pick. All right, we'll be back with you guys next week. More draft content. In the meantime, head to ProFootballFocus.com and any questions you have, PFF_Eric. See you guys.